Good afternoon, HUD agents. Happy Tuesday. It's 1:03 p.m. I'm sorry I'm 3 minutes late signing in. Welcome to HUD's training, our training on how to complete a HUD sales contract. The slide that I'm going to show you was provided by BLB Resources. So hang tight. I'm just going to share my screen and then I'll just get started. Okay, here we go. So, how to complete a HUD sales contract package. Wonderful, wonderful news, everybody. E-signatures are now accepted. So as of May 1st, 2017, e-signatures are accepted, and practically everything is signed through e-signature at this point. There was a short time frame where some things still needed to be signed, you know, regular ink signature. However, just about everything I believe is now e-signature. So all parties privy to the sales contract will receive direct emails at designated times in the workflow requiring verification and e-signatures of the sales contract documents. All agents must be opting into the e-signature process unless a paper contract submission is approved by BLB. HUD's expectation is that most sales contracts will be conducted via e-signature. The buyer's agent and buyers will only be allowed to proceed with hard copy sales contracts if they have an extenuating reason for not being able to process via e-signature. Our P260 database will also need to be noted thoroughly with any exceptions. First exception would be no email address. However, your buyer can usually get a free email through Yahoo, Gmail. If a buyer does not have an email address or immediate access to a computer, internet, then request permission from BLB to do a paper contract, as we will note the P260 record with as much information as possible. If your buyer does have a computer and internet but no email address, we recommend they get a free email account from Gmail, Yahoo, or the other countless of email services available online. There are a number of changes to the bid submission screen on HUDHomestore.com. See below. Selling agent registration on HUD Home Store. Selling agents or buyer's agents must register for their own selling agent account on HUD Home Store and submit their bids under that account. It's not only against HUD policy to submit a bid under their broker's HUD Home Store account or that of another selling agent, it conflicts with the e-signature process and will cause issues down the road. Purchasers. Previously, when submitting a bid, the selling agent would enter a primary purchaser and possibly a secondary purchaser. The bid submission screen now allows for a primary purchaser and up to 3 additional purchasers. A phone number and email are required for each purchaser. Although a cell phone number is optional for the primary purchasers during bid submission, it is highly recommended to include one since it may have to be used as a method of verification. Verification is required before signing the electronic document. Upon agent or broker placing a bid, there's the purchaser financing option. The agent must now differentiate between conventional and other financing in cash, depending on the type of financing that will be utilized. Also, purchaser not living in the property. If a bidder is an owner-occupant, the agent broker will have an option to state whether they will be living in the property. At least one purchaser must live, occupy the property, and sign the owner-occupant addendum. So the closing agent, buyer select closing agent. When placing a bid, the selling agent is required to select an existing buyer select closing agent or type in the name of a company that has not yet been set up with a title ID. The selling agent must also enter one escrow officer. This contact is selected from any already linked to the BSCA, or a new one can be entered. There is an option to enter another backup officer, but this is not required. So just the little red asterisks are required. Buyer select closing agent. When typing the BSCA information on the electronic bid form, Buyer agent should type slowly and pay attention to the options being provided. If that BSCA is listed, they can select it from the list so the information matches P260 data. If the BSCA is not available in the list, then the buyer's agent must call the buyer's BSCA and request a copy of the closing agent's state license and closing protection letter. Here's a note on entering closing agents. When you start to type the closing agent name on the corresponding BSCA field of the bid submission, a list of the HUD Home Store's existing closing agents displays. Try to find the one you will use from the drop-down list instead of entering a new one. If you're not sure which to use, pick one you're familiar with. You can always change your selection later. If you enter a new closing agent, there will be an extra step in the e-signature process that may slow things down. The asset manager will need to check whether the entered closing agent matches one already in the system. If they can't find a match, the asset manager will need to enter the new one into the system. And a tip on finding a match to an existing closing agent. If the closing agent is in HUD Home Store as the most excellent closing agent company, entering the word excellent won't necessarily find them. Entering the most increases your odds of finding a match if they are already in HUD Home Store. The conflict of interest question. This is a new question on the bid submission form. The selling agent is required to respond to a question concerning whether the purchaser is affiliated with HUD or companies contracting with HUD, including asset managers, field service managers, appraisers, listing brokers, and closing agents. If one or more purchasers has a conflict of interest, an additional dialog box displays asking whether one of the purchasers is a HUD employee. If there is a conflict of interest and the purchaser is a HUD employee, an automated email is sent to the selling agent stating that they have 7 days to upload the HUD conflict of interest form. If there is a conflict of interest with one of the purchasers who is not a HUD employee or does not have an approved conflict of interest form, the bid is automatically rejected. Designated signer requirement. This is also new. The selling agent is required to enter the name of the individual in their company that is responsible for signing contracts. This individual is referred to as the e-signature signer or designated signer. Initially, these fields are populated with the contact information for the named registered broker in HUDHomestore.com. This information can be changed at this stage of bid submission or at a later time after a bid is accepted. A broker authorization form will be included within the e-signature additional instruction package, which will be sent to the selling broker upon bid submission. Now we're going to move on to an accepted bid. So the next process, once you've submitted your bid, if it's accepted, you need to verify it on the checklist screen. Selling agents seem to be having trouble locating the checklist link. Once they log into their bidder account on HUD Home Store, they should click into Bidder Functions and select the Accepted Bids tab from the menu bar. The checklist link will be located on the right-hand corner of that screen. Refer to the screenshot below. After the asset manager accepts a bid, the bidding broker will now get a single email notifying them that their bid has been accepted with the subject line of Selling Broker Agent Bid Acceptance Notification. This is referring to the email notification that the HUD Home Store site sends out, not referring to the bid acceptance notices sent out by BLB Resources directly. This HUD Home Store email will outline the verification and document upload requirements. If the closing agent has no HUD title ID, or if one of the following documents listed below is missing or expired, the e-signature checklist on the accepted bid screen of HUD Home Store will require uploads of those documents. It will feature individual upload links for each of the corresponding documents. The e-signature checklist now allows verification or updating of purchasers, signing broker, and closing agent, and uploading of the following documentation. Closing agent state license and insurance coverage, if required. Earnest money check, proof of funds, pre-qualification letter, articles of incorporation for investors, broker designated signer letter of authorization. Refer to the screenshot on the next slide. Agent broker checklist after bid acceptance. Requires uploads for closing agent state license, closing protection letter, or E&O insurance. HUD uses the term closing protection letter and E&O insurance interchangeably. Okay, in this screen, I left this up for a second. Here's a copy of the bid submission screen where you're accepting or updating the checklist. Other uploadable docs after bid acceptance is a copy of the earnest money check, buyer proof of funds, pre-qualification letter, articles of incorporation for corporate investors, broker designated signer letter of authorization. This is used if anyone other than the principal broker will be signing the contract. Excuse me. E-signature steps after the asset manager verifies the checklist and initiates the sales package. The bidding broker gets an email with a DocuSign link to review the contract and clicks Finish to move to the next step, or click to reject the sales contract package button to cancel the e-signature process. The broker responsible for signing the contract gets an email with a link to sign the contract and clicks Finish to go to the next step. Each purchaser gets an email with a link to sign the contract and click Finish to go to the next step. Primary buyer signs at the bottom of the sales contract. Additional buyers initial at the bottom of the following page. Closing agent gets an email with a link to sign the contract and clicks Finish to go to the next step. The asset manager gets an email with a link to sign the contract and clicks Finish to go to the next step. Okay, so in light of the new e-signature process being implemented on 5/1/17, the sales contract packages and corresponding instructional guides that are found on the Addendums tab on HUDhomestore.com's website have been removed. This e-signature additional instructions package contains instructions for the additional items that will need to be manually signed by the buyers on all sales transactions. Some of the addenda in the package will be required for all classes, some on an as-needed basis. These will be available on the Forms page on the BLB Resources website corresponding to your state. Please do not submit your state contract forms, as we can only accept the HUD contract packages. Okay, so any bid that was accepted on or after 8/11/17 no longer requires the addenda listed below prior to sales ratification. So the buyer's agent is only responsible for uploading the items listed below as one PDF file into the earnest money deposit section. Sorry. At the bottom of the e-signature checklist screen of their accepted bids. So the required items is the EMD, the proof of funds, the LLC docs, the broker authorization, if applicable, and the agency disclosure. Please also remember that the buyer's agent will still be required to provide the original copy of the EMD check to the LLB's office within 2 business days of bid acceptance. Although the buyer's agent will also have to attach a copy of the check onto the checklist link in HUD Home Store within 2 business days of bid acceptance, they will also need to provide you with the hard copy as per previous instructions. I'm sorry, my voice is getting a little hoarse here. I'm going to try my best to finish this. Here's an example of the earnest money deposit. The funds must be a cashier's check from a bank or U.S. postal money order. Checks from credit unions, Western Union, MoneyGram, etc. are not acceptable. And they must be made payable to the buyer selected escrow company. Please make sure you also reference the property address and FHA case number. The original EMV checks must now be delivered to the listing agent within 2 business days of bid acceptance, not to BLB Resources. Proof of funds. If paying cash, the purchaser must show proof of funds equal to or greater than the purchase price. If obtaining financing, a valid pre-qualification letter must be included. Approved loan amount must be equal to or greater than purchase price. Purchasers may be required to show proof of additional funds if loan amount is less than the purchase price. Escrow amount, if any, must also be included. Must be on a lender's letterhead with loan officer's email address. And here's an example of the form that's required. I'm sorry. It's the HUD 9548 contract addendum. If the purchaser is not a licensed real estate agent or broker, purchaser must initial the first line. If they are a licensed real estate agent or broker, they must initial the second line and the line indicating whether the purchaser is affiliated with the LLB. Purchaser's broker and selling agent must all sign. If the property was built prior to 1978, this form must be included with the lead-based paint disclosure. Purchasers must initial to indicate receipt of the available lead-based paint information. Purchasers and selling broker must sign. This is your flood zone disclosure. It's required if the property is located in a FEMA flood zone. Your broker authorization letter. This is what is used if the broker cannot sign and someone else needs to sign for them. Oops, sorry, skip back. If purchaser is an LLC, please include articles of incorporation. If purchasing under a trust, please include trust documentation. Please ensure that the sales contract package includes the agency disclosure from your brokerage. Please note that this is not a BLB Resources or HUD form, so you would use the agency disclosure that your brokerage uses. Proof of ID. This is optional. Copies of documentation may be submitted to show that the legal name on the contract package matches the bid submission. This may include a copy of the purchaser's driver's license, passport, social security card, or a recent pay stub that shows the social security number. This is optional as needed. You may get a request for it. Just make sure you submit it if it's requested. And here's a list of the workflow of e-signature contract. There's the asset manager verification. Excuse me. Then there's the e-signature signing ceremony. That's what we talked about before, how it goes to the buyer's agent, then the broker, then the buyer, then the buyer select closing agent, and then finally to HUD. And then we move on to the ratified sales contract. When the document has been signed by all parties, a PDF of the final sales package is delivered to each party along with a certificate of completion from DocuSign. BLB will then promote the case to step 8. As far as FSM inspection request forms, this is for your utility request form. This hasn't really changed. You view the agent info tab of the property details on HUDhomestore.com for the FSM assigned to the property. Original utility request forms and deposit, if applicable, must be sent to the FSM after contract ratification. Do not send it before. And also do not send it to BLB because they can't process that. Purchaser's inspection may not be done until the signed form is returned from the FSM. If the purchaser's responsibility It is the purchaser's responsibility to activate utilities. Neither BLB resources nor the assigned FSM will activate utilities. You have questions about the process? Our customer service department would be happy to assist you if you have any questions regarding how to complete your sales contract package. You can reach out to BLB directly, or you can call our office. We're a listing office in Massachusetts. To call BLB, their phone number is 877-877-5822, or you can email them on the following email addresses. You can also email us at cantaverealtygroup@live.com. That's cantaverealtygroup@live.com. And the next part of the slides is about the hard copy version. We have many copies of this already on our YouTube channel, so I'm going to stop here. But I just want to thank you for attending. I apologize for my little loss of voice there in the middle. We'll be back next month with another training. Thank you so much.